What if the moment you finally get everything you've ever wanted is the exact moment you start losing yourself? Not slowly. Not quietly. But all at once. What if the money, the freedom, the power you think will save you actually starts rewriting who you are without asking permission? And here's the part nobody talks about. Why do people who reach the top keep doing something that makes absolutely no sense? They don't celebrate. They don't relax. They don't feel free. Instead, they become obsessed with something even stranger. And the more you win, the less it feels like winning. Why? What do they know that you don't? And more importantly, what happens to you the moment you cross that invisible line where life stops being normal and starts becoming something else entirely? Because that line exists. And once you cross it, you don't come back the same. But you don't know that yet. Not until it happens to you. You wake up like every other day. Same ceiling. Same phone screen glow in the dark. Same thoughts waiting for you before your feet even touch the floor. You tell yourself today will be different. Maybe today you'll finally get ahead. Maybe today something will shift. But deep down, you already know the truth. You've been stuck in the same cycle long enough to memorize it. Work. Pressure. Expectations. Silence at night when nobody sees you questioning everything. And still, you keep going. Because there's something inside you that refuses to accept average as your ending. You don't say it out loud, but you imagine it constantly. A different version of your life. Bigger rooms. Cleaner decisions. No financial anxiety whispering in your ear every time you try to relax. You imagine people listening when you speak. Respect without needing to explain yourself. Freedom without permission. And then one day, something changes. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a single message. A meeting. An invitation that feels too small to matter, but too strange to ignore. You almost delete it. Almost ignore it like everything else that feels uncertain. But something stops you. Curiosity. Or maybe exhaustion. So you go. And that's the first mistake. Or the first step. You don't know yet. But the moment you decide to show up, your life quietly splits in two. The version before. And the version after. And you still think you're in control. That's what makes it dangerous. Because control is the first illusion to break. And you haven't even met the person who sent the message yet. The place is nothing like you expected. No luxury at first glance. No obvious wealth screaming from the walls. Just silence, structure, precision. And people who don't look at you the way normal people do. They look like they already know something about you that you don't know about yourself yet. You sit down. A conversation begins. Not about money. Not about opportunity. But about rules. Strange rules. Invisible rules. Rules that apparently govern everything you thought was random. You try to stay calm. But something about the way they speak makes you uneasy. Like they're not explaining something new. They're reminding you of something you forgot. Then it happens. One sentence. A single idea. Delivered casually. Almost like it doesn't matter. The people who change the world don't chase success. They obey a rule most people can't see. You ask what the rule is. They don't answer directly. Instead, they ask you a question that hits harder than any answer could. If you had everything you wanted tomorrow, what would stop you from becoming bored of it? You laugh at first. You think it's philosophical nonsense. But no one else laughs. And that's when you realize. They are serious. Completely serious. The meeting ends without closure. No explanation. No clarity. Just an invitation to return. But now something is different. Because you can't unhear what you heard. And worse. You start noticing patterns in your own life that you never saw before. People around you chasing things they don't even enjoy. Success stories that end in silence instead of happiness. And every answer you try to form leads to a deeper question. But the real shift happens later that night. When you realize they weren't inviting you to learn something. They were testing whether you already knew it. And you don't sleep that night. Because for the first time, your goals don't feel stable anymore. They feel fragile. Like they might collapse if you look at them too closely. You go back. Of course you do. Something pulls you there stronger than logic. This time, everything feels different. The room is quieter. The atmosphere heavier. Like decisions are being made before words are spoken. And now they start telling you stories. Not lessons. Not advice. Stories about people who got everything they wanted. And then lost something they didn't realize mattered. A man who built an empire, but couldn't sit alone in silence without feeling attacked by his own thoughts. A woman who became financially untouchable, but started changing cities just to avoid people who knew her before she became someone. Another who achieved total freedom and realized he no longer knew what to do with it. Each story ends the same way. Not with failure, but with emptiness. And then they pause. They look at you and ask, what do all of them have in common? You answer quickly. Too quickly. You say, they didn't enjoy what they built. But they shake their heads. Wrong. That's not it. And now the tension rises. Because you feel it, you're being guided toward something you can't quite see yet. Then comes the shift. They reveal something unexpected. The real danger isn't failure. It's adaptation. You get used to anything. Even the things you once prayed for. Even the life you think will save you. And that's when the rule begins to reveal itself, not as a sentence, but as a pattern. The higher you climb, the less your mind remembers why you climbed at all. Silence fills the room. And suddenly you notice something strange. Everyone here looks tired. Not physically, but mentally distant. Like they're present, but not fully inside their own lives anymore. Then someone stands up, walks toward you, and says something that changes everything. You think you came here to learn success. But you were actually invited to see what success takes from you. And just as you start to process that, the conversation stops. Abruptly. No explanation. The room clears. And you're left alone with a single question echoing in your mind. If success takes something from you, what exactly are you willing to lose? But the real shock hasn't happened yet. Because the next day, you receive something you didn't expect. Access. Real access. To something you were never supposed to see this early. And that's when everything escalates beyond your control. Now you see behind the curtain. Not metaphorically. Literally. Meetings that decide outcomes before the world ever hears about them. People discussing moves that reshape industries like they're adjusting chess pieces. But what disturbs you most isn't the power. It's the emotionlessness behind it. No celebration. No excitement. Just execution. And observation. You start realizing something terrifying. The higher the level, the less life feels like living and more like maintaining balance. Every win creates pressure. Every gain creates responsibility. Every achievement adds weight instead of freedom. And then you see them. The ones at the top. Not as symbols. But as people. And they are not what you imagined. They are quieter. More controlled. Sometimes distant. Like they are constantly managing versions of themselves in real time. And then the rule finally becomes clear. Not spoken. But understood. You don't reach that world and stay the same. Because the environment doesn't change your life. It changes your attention. And whatever your attention becomes addicted to, becomes your identity. That's why they don't chase success anymore. They chase control over what success does to them. But even that control is fragile. Because nothing prepares you for the psychological cost of getting everything you thought you wanted. And now you start questioning something deeper. Not whether you can reach that level, but whether you would recognize yourself if you did. Because everyone you meet there was once someone like you. And that realization sits heavier than anything you've experienced so far. But the final layer is still missing. One last truth they haven't told you. And when it comes, it doesn't feel like information. It feels like loss. You're brought back to the same room where it all started. No explanations. Just one final conversation. And this time, they don't ask you questions. They give you an answer. The billionaire rule nobody understands isn't about money. It's not about success. It's not even about power. It's this. Everything you chase long enough stops feeling like what you thought it would feel like. Silence. You finally understand. The rule was never about becoming more. It was about understanding what enough costs your mind when you ignore it. And now they ask you the final question. Not as a test, but as a warning. If you still want everything you dreamed of, are you prepared to stop feeling excited when you get it? And suddenly, your past self feels distant. Like a different person who didn't know what you know now. You realize something uncomfortable. It was never about the billionaire world being different. It was about the human mind being the same, no matter how high it climbs. And as you walk away from that place for the last time, you understand the truth no one explained clearly enough. The real rule isn't about getting more. It's about what quietly disappears inside you while you do. And the question that stays with you isn't whether you can become that version of life, but whether that version of life will still feel like yours when you do. Because now you know. The higher you go,